Nick Foy. What I'm going to do is be teaching you how to properly install the AquaTune system. Each system comes out with vehicle-specific installation instructions. Important, if you get a hold of the kit and it does not match the description of your engine, stop, call AquaTune. Every kit goes out with vehicle-specific information for that vehicle and everything needed for the install. Okay? What you'll see here is the AquaTune system. This is the 014. This is your adjuster. These are set at blend mode. Between this dot and this dot is the thrust. Just beyond the 3 becomes the thrust mode. From here to here is the blend mode, and then you have the AquaTune mode.
Good.
On every vehicle that this is put on, the first step is to locate the area you're going to install the unit, also the injector nozzles. On this particular model, I chose to go dead center of each runner. This is very important to listen to this. Everywhere there's an injector over here, you'll see the white marks. The white marks represent anything above this injector becomes a runner for that cylinder. So for instance, if we were going to put an injector nozzle and each runner that would feed that particular cylinder, our point of reference would be the injector, the fuel injector. We simply go up, go to point of entry, we would drill here, here, and here on all sides. The other side is opposite. The injector is on this side. The Venturi nozzle would naturally be 1, 2, 3. The reason we chose this is because the amount of room, obviously, and to better show the customer how the injector nozzle works and point of location. The next step we do is, now that we determine this, we locate where we're going to be mounting the unit. On this, we mounted the bracket on top of the accelerator. The bracket's sitting and bolted to the accelerator bracket and to complement the system. Example, the unit would sit here. The 6-way would sit here and inject to the side so you can get all the injection to all the runners evenly. This is a Venturi injector nozzle. The purpose of this is to be placed into the manifold. As the air passes by the back side of the nozzle, you'll see the hole. It's put at a 45-degree angle. When we install the nozzle, it's an absolute must that this red mark faces away from the incoming draft. In all instances, in all applications, this is a must. For instance, when we're installing the Venturi injector nozzle, this is where our injector is, right down below. That's our point of reference. So the red mark would be facing towards the injector. The next one over would be facing the opposite direction, and so on and so on. This holds true in every single instance, whether you're using an 8-way, a 6-way, a 4-way, or 3-way. In all applications, this is a must. If you do not put it that way, what will happen is the incoming draft, the velocity of the draft, will force air back up into the unit and stop the unit. It will not function properly. So what would happen at mid-throttle, you would stop your injection because the incoming air would be hitting against the Venturi nozzle. Each kit comes out with vehicle-specific installation instructions and for everything needed for the install. For instance, we include the drill bit and the tap. This is an 1/8-inch common pipe tap. Actually, you can find this pretty much anywhere in your hardware store. This is 11/32 drill bit. When you drill and tap on a manifold, it is never necessary to take off the manifold. Just follow the procedure. The procedure is, when you drill and tap, you'll coat the drill bit with Vaseline or wheel bearing grease on a cool engine. Intermittently, when you're drilling, you remove the drill bit, clean off the shavings, recoat until you drill through. Now, important, when you go to tap the holes, you'll coat the tap, same, Vaseline or wheel bearing grease. Every fourth turn of the tap, you remove the tap, clean off the shavings, recoat until you're done tapping. You'll always leave 1/4 inch at the top of the tap, because if you do the entire tap, your injector nozzle will have a sloppy fit and you'll have a vacuum leak. Very important. Leave 1/4 inch at the top of the tap where the hole is not tapped. On some vehicle applications, we'll utilize the Evap vacuum port, meaning the vacuum pipe coming out of the manifold. The vacuum pipe most commonly is right by the throttle body. The reason that port is used because by law, by emissions law, that particular vacuum port has to feed all the cylinders evenly with fuel vapors. Therefore, we can mount our vacuum tee butt up against this pipe and inject straight into that port. This is the Evap line. It's a green Schrader line, most commonly identified by the green Schrader line. Anytime, on all instances, you cannot go through the Evap port if this Evap solenoid is mounted on the intake manifold. You cannot inject through this solenoid. You would tend to ruin it, because every time the solenoid were to open up, injection would be allowed to travel through it, and it would not be a good thing because it would short out. Plus, you would block your Venturi, you would block your vacuum reading. So never ever use the Evap port if it's mounted directly on the manifold. If it's mounted away from the manifold, then you can use this vacuum pipe. Some vehicles do much better with a Venturi nozzle application than it does going through the Evap port, for the simple fact that on some of the Evap vacuum ports, the vacuum pipe to it is very small. It restricts the flow. So on your application, whatever's sent to you, use the application that is sent to you. To show how the nozzles are supposed to be, you have red pointing this way, red pointing that way, red pointing this way, red pointing that way, red pointing this way, red pointing that way. Our injector is here. If you follow it up, the injector is at a slant. If you follow it up, the red mark is facing towards the cylinder. Red mark is facing towards the cylinder on the other side. Therefore, this will keep up with the demand of the engine. So, this will assure injection throughout the power band. One of the biggest major mistakes that customers will do is not cutting the lines to fit. If they do not cut the lines to fit as short as possible, they lose efficiency of the system, not a little bit, it's big time. You'll see on our website, on real world installations, we say this over and over and over again. If the system is not installed properly, they're destined for failure. So it's highly important to follow the instruction sheet. Something that's also a must, and please follow this direction, every single hose on this system has to be tightened with a tight strap. Tight. If not, as the engine heats up, you'll tend to start having a vacuum leak, because even at this you can have a leak. So as precautionary measures, make sure that all connections, it doesn't even matter if it's from the water container, right up to the system, out of the system and to the point of entry to the 6-way. It is an absolute must. The unit's now been installed. We have it installed in such a way where we're in alignment with the 6-way. Notice how even it is. You can either mount the unit this way or vertical or horizontal, either way. But never allow the injection to travel upward or have the filter pointing the hood, or having this upside down. It would cause total disruption of the injection. It is, again, highly important that everything is as close as possible to the point of entry. Very important. So after we install it, we did find a location for the bracket. We mounted the unit on the bracket with a spacer plate to assure that we're even with the 6-way. We're now going to attach the metered air. Metered air means that any air that has passed the MAF sensor has already been acknowledged by the computer. We're capturing some of this air, such as putting a nipple behind the MAF sensor and routing it up to the back of the unit. This now puts the entire system into closed loop. The computer will never see outside air entering in to the engine. This puts the system again into total closed loop. Some vehicles, for instance, you will find your MAF sensor close to the airbox. That being the case, then you would put a capture nozzle behind it, as close as possible to the MAF sensor. We don't want the capture nozzle extremely close to the butterfly when the MAF sensor is sitting close to the airbox. For closed loop, simply remove the air filter that's on the system. Remove the filter, and you'll notice that there is a nipple to attach the metered air. Here is your air filter. Hold on to your air filter because some vehicles do not have an MAF sensor. They have a MAP sensor. If the vehicle has a MAP sensor, keep the air filter in place. Highly important. So it either has a MAP sensor or it has an MAF sensor. The white dots have been put on this hose for the simple purpose for showing how the closed loop is connected. We now can attach the hose to the nipple. This is a 1/4 inch regular fuel line, and mount the other side to the back. We'll put the tie straps on there. Again, importance, tie straps on everything. Whenever you're installing a 6-way, 4-way, or the 3-way, it is highly important that the shower head, the injection coming out at the bottom, goes to your longest away from the shower head. You'll notice that this is same here. Then the next step up would have been here and here. Now you're here and here. The reason we do that, it gives better calibration for all the injection to be injecting evenly. Because you have resistance on the longer, less resistance on the shorter, the less resistance now would also be coming through here. So all of them are being fed evenly. In this particular application, the customer wanted a larger water container to get obviously more miles for the water. So normally this, for instance, would be fitting in this cavity here. This is a 2-quart. The water container he has is called the slimline. It holds over a gallon and a quart. You'll notice that the slimline was placed in front of the radiator. It does not restrict the flow of the radiator flow because there's a gap between the tank and the radiator approximately 1 1/4 inches, allowing the air to pass by the water container, and it does not pose a problem for the engine's function for cooling. One thing that's highly important to always remember, the tank, the water container, has to fit lower than the unit. We do not want any chance of siphoning. If the tank is higher than the unit, there poses a chance of this siphoning, and we do not want water going into the engine when the engine's off. So in all instances, the tank has to be lower than the unit, even if it's a 1/16 of an inch lower. That is a must. On all instances, whenever possible, you'll want to hook your positive lead wire to the back of the alternator. The reason for this is we get a much better voltage saturation going to the generator. You can go direct voltage to this system for the simple fact that we have a transfer switch built into the unit. This transfer switch only allows voltage to the generator when the engine's running. It shuts off automatically when you shut the engine off. This is why we can hook it to hybrid vehicles. That's why we have a vast amount of what we can install this unit on and not have to be concerned about the generator burning up because someone left the key on. So, also, there has been installed on this port right here a quick connect release. This allows the customer to, if he wants to transfer his unit, he just simply unplugs it. Now, if we are going to be running multiple generators, there would be a pigtail mounted to this wire here, which goes to the generator, to the switch. The pigtail allows, it'd be a pigtail like this, will allow the customer to plug in his multiple generators into the pigtail. Therefore, they're only operational when the engine is running. It's very important when you go to your ground circuit to find a known good ground. You'll find known good grounds such as body grounds, of course the battery ground, or even sometimes the thermostat housing will have ground wires connected to it. The most important thing is the grounding as well. The system does depend very heavily on a good ground. If you do not get a good ground on it, you'll have too much resistance that's not allowing the generator to create its hydrogen, that you could even at times, if you don't have a good ground, could spike the generator. It should look like when you're completed. Note it's going into the 6-way. When you want to adjust to sections of blend mode, you can enrichen your injection by simply going to the blend mode. Or you can go into plus mode. We're in thrust mode right now. Go back to the blend mode. You'll notice your injection coming through here. That's how the injection should look. Now, when you want to calibrate your injection, let's say one's getting a little bit more injection than the other, you simply move your nozzle and this will calibrate any injection that you want calibrated just by simply moving it. You'll get more concentration on the direct orifice of the injector nozzle. Let's say that you have one cylinder stronger than the next. That other cylinder that's not quite as strong will have a leaner injection. Always allow at least an hour of driving, an hour of running before you make an adjustment. For the simple fact that the carbon starts being removed from the engine and the vacuum starts increasing in that cylinder because there'll be an absence of carbon.